Okay, I'm going to see if I can do this. Um, Quickly going over the basics of this sugya. Um, Here is the sugya with all of its parts. The piska, right? That's just the quote from the Mishnah that this is tied to. And then we have four separate statements here. Marbi Abahu, Ta'anantanan, Ta'ama, etc. And then Hakamash Malan. Four statements. The, Obviously, I have labeled here the Piska from the Mishnah, but then the first thing I labeled Makor because it's simply the starting point source. This is just a teaching that is presented, and then the Gemara will proceed to discuss it. It raises a kushya. The kushya includes the quotation of a source, right? A source, and then a statement elaborating on why the second source conflicts, or how the second source conflicts with the first one. And then a tirutz, a resolution of the apparent conflict. Um, you should note that the two sources, the one in green, the Memra, and the one in red, the quote from the Mishnah, are both in Hebrew. They are concise and kind of precisely worded, and they are freestanding sources that weren't written for this sugya and can be understood on their own. The rest of the text in black, is not. It is the Gemara's voice. It is a mixture of Hebrew and Aramaic. It's kind of imprecise in its language, and it is the discussion of the issue of this sugya. Okay. The Memra. Rabbi Yao says, Eino chayav ad sheyochal b'chavura shekula srikin. You should first notice that Eino chayav ad she is, right, he is clearly adding another element onto our Mishnah because he is mimicking the language and the format from Mishnah and from what we saw in the previous Memra of Rav Huna. In this case, he's not chayav unless he yochal b'chavura shekula srikin. Chavura, we saw it in chavurat mitzvah, right? That's in the Piska itself, right? But chavura itself just means gathering, right? The chavura has to be a chavura of thugs. Okay? The kushya. Viha. That viha, but you can kind of translate it with a sputter. But wait, hey. Viha, but we taught. Anan tanan. We taught. And when we taught it in the Mishnah. When it was taught in a Tanya. It was taught in a Braita. But when we taught it means the Mishnah. But we taught in the Mishnah, now, the key is to notice the link between the word chavura. Rabbi Abba says it has to be a chavura that's all thugs. But the Mishnah said he's only exempt if he ate in a chavura for mitzvah. Thus, the explanation, the next line. Ta'ama de mitzvah. Here, it's crucial to first translate these words literally and then figure out where you need to fill in. Ta'ama de mitzvah. The reason is that it's a mitzvah. Halav mitzvah. But, or if it's not a mitzvah, af al gav de lav kulas rikin. Even if they're not all thugs. Right? Lav kulas rikin means not they aren't thugs at all, but they're not all thugs. So we have to fill that in. I say here, carefully apply Frank's explanation. You didn't necessarily all look at this phrase up in Frank, but I kind of showed you that it's implying a converse. If the Mishnah says he's exempt if he ate in a chavarat mitzvah, that implies only if it's a chavarat mitzvah. No other kind of chavura would be exempt. But more specifically, ta'amad the mitzvah. The reason that he's exempt in this Mishnah statement is because it's mitzvah. But if it's not a mitzvah, meaning if the chavura he's in is not for mitzvah, he shouldn't be exempt regardless of who is there. Not right. That he shouldn't be exempt, or he should be chayav, is what you're feeling. The reason he's exempt is because it's mitzvah. So if it wasn't a mitzvah, he should be chayav, regardless of who's there. Only if it's chavar, he's exempt only if it's chavar mitzvah. Doesn't matter who is there. Okay. Now we have our terutz. Ha kamashmalan. This ha kamashmalan is coming to teach us. Okay. The phrase kamashmalan is always comes as the resolution of a kusha, and essentially to correct correct a hava amina, correct a proposed but incorrect reading. Okay. So the correct reading of it, we don't know what it is yet, but afagav de kula srikin, even if they are all srikin, kevan de mitzvah ka'asik lo mimshich. Even if they are srikin, because he's doing a mitzvah, he won't get drawn in. Now, which source could that be? Can that be a clarification of, or a sort of lead into? Well, essentially, it is a statement that would come between Rabbi Abahu and the Mishnah. Rabbi Abahu says he's only chayav if they're all srikin. Then we say, and even if they are all srikin, he could still be exempt if he's doing a mitzvah, because the doing of the mitzvah keeps him from getting drawn in. We'll talk more about what that means, but so in other words, this is now essentially modifying the meaning of the Mishnah. Instead of the Mishnah and Rabbi Abahu being incompatible standards, the Mishnah functions as a further corollary. Right here. Even if they're all thugs, he's safe if it's a chavarat mitzvah. He won't be, since he's doing a mitzvah, he won't be drawn in. They're both true, but one is the main rule and one is secondary. The main rule has to be all thugs. And beyond that, secondly, even if they are all thugs, he could still be exempt for this other reason. This other thing can override even that. So, I'm going to leave the Rashi for the next, for further conversation, but hopefully that clarifies the order of logic and how these pieces fit together, why they seem to be in conflict, and then we learn, and then by reframing what the Mishnah is talking about, it presents them as working together rather than in opposition.